to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and an amazing weekend so far. And remember, it's fall, so we fall back tomorrow. So remember to set your clocks back there. But thank you for joining me this day. My name is Don Terrell. I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion. I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades, and I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I am ecstatically crazy about. You know the drill, everybody. Like I said, hop into the comments, say hey, where you're tuning in from, so I can give you the shout out that you so richly deserve. But I want to make sure that I connect with you. Make sure that you join us each and every Saturday. We're here 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, the website, and the Facebook group for the show. So you can check us out live at all those places there. Again, make sure that you get plugged into the Facebook group community, facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motion. Get plugged in, engage. We share a lot of great industry news, have a lot of great conversations, and a lot of fun there. And like I said, I definitely don't want you to miss out, because there you're able to connect with a lot of great industry professionals. Also, we'd love for you to get plugged into our Instagram page, Instagram at The Color of Motion. Like I said, we share a lot of great shorts there and some different content there that you can check out for the show, maybe some behind the scenes kind of stuff. So make sure that you follow us there as well. I always encourage, though, everybody to get plugged into the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Don Terrell. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification so that you get notified when the show goes live and when other great content goes up on the channel. So definitely, like I said, want you to be a part of the community for sure. This season is winding down, and we're rolling on into, like I said, season 5. Like I said, I had a lot of big things planned for the new season. But closing out this last season, we got a lot of great episodes left to do for sure. Mr. DeWine, appreciate you for tuning in there. Happy Saturday to you there, brother. I hope you had a great Halloween as well. Halloween, it's not quite like it used to be when I was younger. I don't go trick-or-treating anymore, but I still always enjoy the holiday. Like I said, I made a post. I love the fall season myself, and I miss the fall, the change of season down here in Texas. I miss it, being up from up north. So I do love the fall holiday, Halloween, Thanksgiving, into the holiday season. So I hope everybody had a great Halloween and a great holiday so far. But again, cannot thank you enough for joining me today. As always, give me a little bit of your time there. Make sure that you hop on over to the store, pick you up something nice. The holiday season is coming along, Black Friday. You can pick you up something. thecolorofmotion.net/swag. Pick you up some nice gear. We have shirts, hoodies, mugs, all kinds of great things. Like I said, for the new season, I'm revamping the store, putting in a lot of new stuff. So definitely want you to pick up something. But I will ask you, if you do, make sure you take a picture of yourself and send it on over to us so that I can share it on the show and share it on the social channels as well. All right. That was a lot to get into the meat of it there, but I think we're about ready to kind of get the show going there. What do you say? I hope you are as excited as I am to get this train on the tracks. Let's go. are back. All right. Ready to rock and roll there, baby. Mr. Dwan, glad you had a great Halloween, man. Rewatched some favorite specials, ate candy, and posted fan art. Yeah, I saw some in the post that you put up based on a pair of spooky. Like I said, I'm glad you had a great holiday. I did the same. Watched some horror flicks and, enjoyed it. Ah, all right. With that, I think we're about ready to get going there. Like I said, I hope you're as excited about my next guest. I've been so looking forward to sitting down, talking with her. When you see her little clip that I was going to share with you during the show, you'll get a kick out of it too. Like I said, we were talking before the show started and had a lot of deep conversations. So looking forward to continuing that. My next guest, she's a passionate storyteller and performer through voice acting, theater, writing, and directing. For over 4 years, she's been lending her voice to her animated web series, Hella Black Mexican, bringing characters to life with authenticity and vulnerability, at the same time honing her skills in animation and writing. Before that, she found her love for acting through formal classes, learning the ropes of character development and stage presence. Being bilingual and Afro-Latina, she takes pride in representing diverse voices in entertainment, celebrating her shared human experiences in every role she can. That's mine. That's my note. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Ehcrama Marche. Ehcrama.
Hello.
Hello,
You had
hello.
one of the best intros I have seen on a podcast.
I'm gonna have to shorten it down a little there. Like I said, I'm constantly thank you though. I'm constantly trying to refine it and so excited, like I said, for next season 5. I'm gonna revamp kind of the whole thing. So got some exciting things planned. But thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us today. Like I said, when we connected last year, it was a long time coming getting you on, but I'm so excited about finally getting you on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation since last year because I remember when I had to make the appointment, it was like in 4 or 5 months. I was like, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's.
So,
I'm trying to find a good space for that because that is hard. I know for some people, because I do try and keep myself as far ahead as I can booking wise. But I know for some people, it's
mhm.
hard. It's like, what? 3 months, 4 months. Like,
I know, but it did go by quick because you did say that. You're like, it's gonna fly by. It did.
it does. It does. And Mr. Dewan welcomes you there. Welcome, Ehcrama.
Hello.
Awesome,
Thank
awesome.
you.
And like I said, we were diving and talking about a lot of stuff that you got going on and everything. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and kind of diving into your story because it is a interesting one for sure, and you got a lot of interesting things going on. Um, I wanted to know, kind of, I always like to start out. Did you know early on that you were kind of wanting to get into acting and storytelling and animation? I mean, how early did you kind of start to figure out, or did your parents kind of notice early that you were like this? Or
Yeah, so at a very young age, I would say I was pretty creative. As soon as my mom got her first flip phone, I started doing short motion, or is it called
stop
motion?
motion?
Stop motion.
Yeah.
I started doing stop motion. I got my little Polly Pocket dolls. I'd get all the kids in the neighborhood, and we would start making these stories, these love stories, these dramatic stories of the aliens taking over. And I was probably about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. And I remember I did something I was very proud of. I showed my mom, and she was just like, "Wait, this is like actually really good." And so, I think all throughout like not elementary, like middle school, high school, I started doing a lot of YouTube videos because I would see like all these types of characters on YouTube. So I tried to do like the YouTube. Obviously, I'd get like 2 views, but I was very happy with those 2 views. Um,
Got to start
but
out somewhere,
it,
you know.
yeah, yeah, and acting was something that my mom, she wasn't like very excited for, because you hear those stories of like young, Disney actors, and it's like, I don't know if I want my daughter in that world, but she was very like supportive. I'd tell her to take me to these auditions. I'd find them in the internet, like on Craigslist. I'll be like, Mom, there's an audition on Wilshire. And she's like a Spanish speaker. She's just like, okay. She's like, and we didn't have a car, so we'd take the bus to like some random like place
Wow.
in Wilshire. I'd go audition, and it was very janky, very sketchy looking, and she's just there like with her rosary, like, oh my God. Um,
Wow. Yeah, that's a different route for sure. Taking to be an actress. Uh, Craigslist.
Yeah, so I didn't really quite have the best direction. Mind you, I was probably also around 10, 11 years old, looking like, where can I, oh, you need an agent. Where do I find an agent? Like, I'm 10 years old. So, um, yeah, so my mom, she doesn't know anything about that world. And
Yeah.
then my brother, he's older than me, but he's like into fish and like marine world. So it's just like I had nobody. So I was just like, let me just keep doing this YouTube stuff. And it's funny because I even wrote like a letter to God when I was younger, like, God, please let me be an actress. Like, I want to meet Justin Bieber because I feel like we're meant to be like soulmates. Like, I was just very needed to
Um,
be in that world.
so
Um,
how did you transition from like acting to kind of finding a voice, your voice, or your kind of love for animation and kind of storytelling? I mean, actress, being an actor, actress, yeah, it's storytelling, but how do you transition from that into animation?
okay, yeah, so. I transitioned into animation during COVID. I did not go to school for animation. I didn't go to school for writing. I actually was going to UC Riverside. And then when I was there, I was like, I do not belong here because I had no idea like what the topic was. So I ended up calling my mom, and I told her like, Mom, I think I need to pursue a different career path. And she's
So
always
what were
been
you
supportive, like I said.
pursuing? What were you pursuing there?
Um, it had to do with like human resources
Oh,
or something along. Yeah. And I remember joining the club, like the film club, and it was just like this one kid with the little camera and like 6 other people, and they're like, okay, let's just shoot some stuff. And I was just like, I thought there was going to be like a teacher and instructor, so I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And I can't spend, like, I'm spending my mother's money in this college, and I don't know
wow.
what I'm doing. Yeah, so I called her, yeah, and I told her, like, Mom, I think I'm gonna drop out. And she was just like, I trust you. Like, I trust you. I trust that you know what you're doing. Um, so just do whatever you have to do. And then I ended up going to Los Angeles Film School, which many people knock it. I did once, but you know what? I made great connections from that school, and it is what you make it.
Yeah.
But I went for cinematography. Um, so the whole thing with finding my voice, I think I'm still learning to do that because during film school, I knew I wanted to be like a director, and I still wanted to be an actress. And I was like, this is a great place to network anyway. Um, but I never like stood on it that I wanted to be a director.
Yeah.
So I was just like, let me learn cinematography. Like, let me just learn all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what I basically ended up learning, and I graduated with a bachelor's. But I still wasn't like content. I still wasn't very happy. So YouTube always has called my name. During the pandemic, I didn't get to take a lot of pictures or work on a lot of projects just because we were all like scared to
Yeah.
die and, had a bunch of toilet paper everywhere. So it's just like, what do I do? How do I continue being creative and without like engaging with people or staying 6 feet away? Um, and I liked YouTube, but I was like, I didn't want to be in front of the camera anymore. I didn't feel comfortable with myself. It was just like not the vibes.
Yeah.
So I ended up learning character animator. Um, and that's kind of just where it started. I saw this one YouTube video and it was like 10 minutes long, like create your own character. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And so um, that's kind of just where it started. And because I already had all these stories I wanted to tell on YouTube, it just transitioned beautifully.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to tell my stories about being a hella black Mexican. But the thing now was like, I just don't want to be in front of the screen. And so now I found this program where I could like use this little character to share my stories. Um, so that's like a
It's a winding
long-winded
path for
response.
sure. And definitely,
Yeah.
like I said, I think it's still a great way to get into, the space. Obviously, the school kind of gave you a little something. What was it? Like you said, I don't I'm not that familiar with the school, but you said, it's kind
Yeah.
of obviously it's got a bad rap or kind of a bad knock. I don't know, but what was it that you kind of pulled from it and was able to get from it that kind of helped you? You know.
Yeah, I had one teacher, his name was Sasha, um, and also another teacher that taught about transmedia and how it's important for the media you have to be able to translate into different mediums of media. That's a lot of media word, but like so I had learned that there how important it was to create like an IP, that entire world,
Mm.
and have it somehow connected. And that was like one of the very first few classes. And then my teacher Sasha, he was my cinematography teacher. And it wasn't what he was teaching about cinematography, but he was just basically like, this industry is hard. You need to stand your ground. Um, like, know what you want to do and just focus on that and be consistent. So it was more like, he was very motivating. And
Motivating.
I
Well, I
would
mean,
say that my peers,
have you thought about like going back? Obviously, you're kind of in the trenches right now, working on your, the animation as you're doing it. But have you, had thoughts about going back for more traditional animation training, or are you just okay? I'm just gonna brute force learn what I need to learn while doing this.
yeah. I'm stuck between wanting to go back to school for animation or going to like a community college and learning how to storyboard. But also another part of me, I'm just really fascinated with like writing and trying to move people through my writing and having people feel like seen and related
Mm-hmm.
through writing. So I feel like animation is just one of the mediums I could use to share those stories, but I love like the storytelling part of it. And so I would love to go to school for animation, but I don't know, I don't feel like I
Well,
feel like
you're
I could learn more like through YouTube and just like doing it on my own,
well. It's
and
a
with other
lot.
people that may know.
Well,
Oh yeah, no, it's a
if your
lot.
thing is kind of more focused on the writing of the story, then I would figure, okay, taking classes in creative writing, because like you said, you could always hire or partner or work with somebody that is an animator that, like I said, obviously you're not going to be able to do every part of the production
Right.
process. So, which is, I guess, the thing is figuring out which is the part that I want to focus on, or is the I'm the best at, or am more interested in.
Mhm.
And that's, I think about that as well because I'm not a writer, but I love writing. I'm not an animator, but I love
Mhm.
animating type of thing. But I know if
Yeah.
I was to put something together, whether it be a short or a film, I would have to find people that could fill that gap and get in and figure out what lane do I want to be in, what lane am I going to be
Yeah.
in type of thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I like writing, and that's what I started discovering after. It was like, oh, I actually really enjoy the writing
Mm-hmm.
part of it. But I love these stories being told through
Yeah.
animation. So that's like important to me. So that's why it's like I'll learn the program, I'll figure it out, I'll get some help because I like using that sort of media to tell these stories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I mean, well, and just to be, I guess, kind of clear for everybody else, your kind of day job or what you do is you're an editor, a video editor.
yeah, so I'm an
Um,
editor for like a tech company. I spend 40 hours a week just doing very non-creative stuff. Um, but that's why it's important to have your side things to keep
yeah,
you alive, keep the juices flowing. Because, yeah, I have like this big girl job, but it's not like, I mean, you need to make time for yourself, for
oh man.
your
Well, I mean,
craft.
but would that be something that obviously you're going to need editing for your feature film? Is that something that you thought you would might want to do as opposed to the writing? Like I said, obviously, you know, put it in feature. You're either going to go the route of trying to do as much as you can yourself if you're on a budget type of
Yeah.
thing, or hiring somebody to edit it and do the soundtrack for it and do the voiceover, all the stuff that you could if you were on a budget. Okay, I can record voices and you know
Yeah. Yeah, I think for editing, I feel like that's for sure one of my strengths. So when it comes to this project, that's definitely somewhere I want to dirty my hands in the editing and the post part of the production. Because I like the storytelling and just being also involved with like the composer and what type of music and what's the emotion here.
yeah,
And also with just like it falls in also with the cinematography. It's like, how's the lighting gonna look here? You know,
yeah,
this character's distraught, they're going through some stuff. Okay, how's the window lit? Where are the shadows falling? Um, so it's like I feel like I learned like a lot of little things from different departments that even like in acting and doing theater and all of that, it's like I just have an overall like I love creating like in
yeah.
general. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and like I said, I guess and I'm digging into this because like a lot of creatives, we like to do and create our own things. And depending, like I said, if it's a big enough project, obviously, and that's the thing I think most business owners, entrepreneurs, or you know, struggle with is delegating and relinquishing, relinquishing things to do, and you're being on a more, I guess, higher level production person, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you're more. I guess you could describe yourself as a production, production person because you're overseeing
Actually, yeah.
every little area of it, and that's what
Yeah.
I mean when okay, at some level, especially like I said, if you're trying to make this a bigger project, even on a, you cut it down. You said you cut it down to a smaller time frame, but even on that
Mhm.
it's still a lot of people involved. And so figuring out where you're going to fall in this production pipeline as a manager or as an overseer of everybody that's doing the things that you need done, or being down in the trenches doing it. And obviously, you can't do everything. You're gonna have to find that
Right.
one spot that you're gonna do, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's really important to figure out, especially early on. Like just through this process alone, like writing it and then recording the voices and um, drawing the backgrounds and all of that, with just us two, it was just like, okay, yeah, we definitely need a team to do it. It was like cool back in COVID when we weren't doing anything all
Yeah,
day. Like it was literally our job, and within a week we would drop an episode. So it was very like easy, very fast because we had nothing else to
you have to
focus on.
do. Yeah,
Um, so I think for me, I do see myself in the producing side of it, for sure, because I kind of want to oversee everything. I know when it comes to pitching this, um, I have nothing to stand on to like be a showrunner, and that's where I'm kind of like, oh, that sucks because being a creator of it, you want to have that last say when it comes to like creative choices. And to leave that to somebody else feels like, it feels like I'm giving up
yeah,
something. But I know it's like it takes a team, and overall, everybody who is working on it, essentially everybody wants the same thing and they want the project to be great. So it's like important to see it that way, not like who has the last say or creative control,
yeah,
but what's best for the project. So I know for me, it'd be important to like be a producer from, obviously beginning to end. And I would love to be like showrunner or co-creator or just have not a lot of creative control because you can't have that, but like have some say,
yeah. And
especially
we
because you
talk
want these stories to be, yeah, authentic. You want these stories to
authentic.
be real. Yeah, you don't want like somebody to come in and be like, "Oh, this is what's gonna happen," and you're like, "That doesn't happen in
Yeah.
real life." Like, so
Well, I mean, that's what I found, I guess, interesting talking to the friends that I've made that have created, something that they're wanting to shop around and try and get a bigger budget to produce.
mhm.
Just found it interesting, their mentality and their train of thought when they're going in to these pitch meetings to talk about it, and being strong enough to stand on the things that they're want to do. Obviously, you kind of you go in knowing that there's some things that you're going to give up, I guess, to get your
Yeah.
idea out there, and depending on who you're pitching it to, obviously they're going to want the biggest slice that they can get as far as
Yeah.
control and just and I get it because they're putting a lot of money behind it, you know but as a creative, you still want that control over, especially something that you created yourself, an IP and an idea that you
Mhm.
created yourself. You still want a certain amount of control over it, type of thing. So there's that strange balance of, okay, if I want to get this out to
Yeah.
the masses or get this out to a big studio, there's a certain amount of
You
control I'm
gotta
going to have to, yeah, a
compromise.
certain amount of compromise and
Yeah.
control I'm going to have to give up, you know?
Yeah. I think for me, it's just wanting to use like authentic voices and real people, and just like hiring more of our people to be like creating these stories. um, so that's why I would like to be part of the producing,
Yeah.
just to get more people like us through the door and more people like us in the writing room who, we all have that one crazy uncle that maybe, I don't know, a different race could not relate to, but it's like
Yeah.
we need us in the room, so I want to be able to like fight for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh
And that
yeah.
is, I think, something so important now. And everybody just joining in, I'm getting ready to show some of what Ehcrama's working on for her or from her web series and her feature that she's working on. You'll get an idea, and I want to dive after that. I want to dive kind of deeply into kind of what your thought process for was when you created this, why you kind of created, why you kind of feel like this is something that's really necessary to be out there right now. So everybody, Mr. DeMille, appreciate you tuning in there. Happy Saturday to you there, brother, for sure. We're getting ready to take a look at some of Ehcrama's work. It's kind of funny. You'll get it. You'll get it when you see it. So let's take a quick look before we jump back in and dive into the conversation here.
Déjame contarte de esta negrita de Montebello. Dejaré mi sello, déjame te enseño. Mira cómo muevo la cadera que los cuellos. Soy dominicana, mexicana. Reverse mi apellido, soy Ehcrama. You don't know me yet, but I bet that you're gonna know me after spitting this shit's melodrama. I do it more for me than I do it for the fama. Cause the fama never lasts and then you're like for nada. Quarantine. Quarantine. Yeah, I'm black. I'm still black. Hella black. Mexican. Ehcrama la dominicana, rap y canta banda madre mexicana. Dominicana, mexicana, negrita que pronto va a estar en demanda.
Le gusta la salsa, le gustan los tacos, pozoles, tamales, nopales, no mames. Yeah, I'm black. Yeah, I'm black. Y ya, ay, no puedo decir I'm black porque ni soy negrito y luego se enojan. You know why you're so negrita? Because you stayed in the sun too long. I'm joking.
Well, you look pregnant.
Shabuya roll call, shabuya, shabuya roll call.
My name's Ehcrama, and with the drama, you got a problem with me, square up with your mama. From Montebello, con chino pelo. Don't talk about me if your teeth are kinda yellow. Don't know hablo inglés ni porque yo te revelo. Hablo español, boca abierta en el suelo. ¿Que estás sorprendida? ¿Que no notabas? Mexicana y dominicana, no te...
A lot of rapping.
Oh man, I tell you. And I wanted to ask you because, like I said, I know you're happening this around where you created a kind of a spinoff. You were saying of the characters and that you were shopping this around. One, I want to know kind of what was the inspiration for where did Hella Black Mexican come from?
So the inspiration was through my life, growing up in Montebello, California, really close to East LA. There wasn't a lot of people that looked like me, and my mom, being like the only adult figure in my life, guardian, did not look like me either.
Really?
Um, so yeah, my mom she's like a 4'8", very fair, like Mexican woman.
Uh-huh.
So all the time, I was always asked, like, is that your grandma? Like, is she your babysitter?
Yeah, nanny.
So yeah, and in class, I was the only black student. So anytime they got into slavery and Rosa Parks, all the eyes would just dart at me, and it was just the most uncomfortable time. I'd get home and I'd tell my mom, like, do I have to go to school tomorrow? Like, we're still talking about this. And she doesn't know how to console me. She doesn't know. I mean, she never went through what I'm going through. This is her
Yeah.
first time raising a daughter who's black. So
Do you have brothers
it
or
was just
sisters, or are you just the only child?
I have brothers and a sister.
Mm-hmm.
They're all half siblings. But
Okay.
my brother that I grew up with, he's also my half sibling. But he's full Mexican.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, I stood out and all the
Yeah.
family pictures and everything. Um, so yeah, just growing up, it was just a lot of that. I laugh about it a lot now, but I was younger crying because one, my mom couldn't do my hair. She didn't know how to brush my type of hair. Any
Wow.
little knots, she'd like cut them with scissors or try to put mayonnaise, and we were sitting there for hours. Um, and it got to the point where, when I got a little bit older, I just felt like I couldn't tell her like, "Hey, mom, I'm not comfortable with like this person because I feel like they made this remark about my skin color." Like I never would express to her anytime I felt like I was discriminated against
Yeah.
or I was looked at weird because I was like, she's not gonna understand. She,
Yeah.
you know, and then I'm always just gonna hear the same thing, like, oh, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. Um, but yeah, it just was really hard a little bit on me. Like I kind of would just look at her and I'd ask her, like, why didn't I come out like you? Like, why don't I look like you? And she'd just be like, don't say that, like you're beautiful. And so I think as I got older, I was just like, wait, this is funny. Like I've never I wish I had a character like me on TV, or I could just be like, "Oh my God, that's me." You know, we
Yeah.
had That's So Raven. I loved That's So Raven. So that was like some representation of me, but never like a Afro-Latina,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like I said, we're just kind of, kind of glossing over your, kind of grazing over your family there. So I'm assuming your dad was black.
Yes.
Well, I
My
mean,
dad
your
was very
dad,
black.
but your dad wasn't in your life. You were talking about your mom. Well, I mean, was your dad active in your life to where I at
Yeah,
least know
so
that I'm going to get this kind of, you know, flack, from
yeah,
students and stuff.
my dad, my parents got divorced. I believe I was around 6 years old. And it's funny because that's where when I started getting like actually very creative.
Mm,
Um, but he left when I was around 6 years old. And I do remember like telling him like, "Oh, this kid in the neighborhood called me this word, you know?" And he'd be like, "Oh, you don't let them, like you have to fight them." But my dad is very like hardcore. Like
mm,
he would always tell me like, "If you're gonna get into a fight, like don't fight like physically people." He's like, "If you're fighting people, like you fight to kill, you fight to," and I'm just like, "Oh no." Like I'm not killing anybody. So he's just very extreme. He's
yeah.
this Dominican man who like I
Uh,
have questions about him all the
yeah. Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So, what do you
so
feel like the character did for you? I mean, obviously, this gave you a voice of what you were feeling.
yeah, I think it not only like it was incredible to put it out, like put one of the very few episodes out. And I remember just randomly checking the Instagram messages, and we had messages from teachers, we had messages from moms, like grandparents saying like this is what my daughter's going through, or this is what I went through when I was younger, or teachers saying somehow they wanted to use that in their curriculum. But I didn't realize how much other people like felt like me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't even just like black Mexican people. It
Yeah.
was like black and Asian people or Asian
Yeah.
Mexican people. It was just like everybody was just like, hey, this is awesome, like keep going. And so it wasn't just like therapeutic for me to just like put this out and make it comedic.
Yeah.
It helped me realize like, oh, people actually like need this and they want to see this. And I didn't know that because I was just putting it out because I thought like people should know what I went through and make it funny. And so it was like incredible to get those messages and find like my community. And it was funny because before that, I didn't know I was Afro-Latina. And now I'm like, oh, I'm an Afro-Latina. That's cool. I'm part of this
Yeah.
community. I belong to something now. So it gave me a lot. I feel it opened a lot of doors and I met a lot of people like me, which is like all I wished for
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
younger.
Well, definitely, there's a lot of group, and I don't know if you've been to any of their meetings. Uh, Latinx in animation, Latinas in animation, great
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
Definitely looking for it. I've had a few guests from there myself, for sure, that I met and built a relationship with, and definitely want to do some stuff with them as well. But obviously, finding a community that really, and not just from ethnic wise, but just what you're doing, a community of creatives that are trying to, get
Yeah.
their voice just like you out there as well. you know, did you, when you created it, obviously you were thinking the things that you went through were kind of funny, because I went through the same thing. I think as, you know, and it's funny. Well, I'm not funny, but I think as most people of color, we go through these situations
Yes.
that were, you know, it's like, really? You know, is this
Yes.
you have to laugh at it because it's like, but I think the thing I find interesting is, you know, the ones that are saying it don't realize that they're saying something that's maybe offensive, or they're just, you know, get it. So I guess that's where the conversation in the animation plays in, because it allows you to have these kind of conversations about things that normally wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that was like one of my biggest purposes because, yeah, I was always asked, like, oh, where are you from? And why do you speak Spanish? And I'd be like, oh, my mom's Mexican. Oh, but like, how did you learn? Like, they just refused to believe that I could speak Spanish, or just, it was just interesting. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I was like, this cartoon's gonna be helpful for the people that don't know, because you're kind of calling them out, but in a very like fun and like sincere way, you
Well,
know?
I mean, I think, like I said, that's the beauty of what animation can do.
Yeah.
You know, it's there. Obviously, there's some in, you know, more subtle ways, and then there's animation that's more direct ways. I think yours kind of, you know, it reminded me a lot geez, what's the animation of the kids, uh, Canadian
Which
kids,
one?
the
The
Canadian
South
kids,
Park?
South Park. It had that really kind of rough edge type of, you know, in your face kind of comedy that was South
Yeah.
Parkish, you know, maybe The Simpsons, you know, that really kind of hardcore kind of edge type of thing. Do you feel like, you know, there's that would be kind of more the space for it, or more receptive for it than, say, a feature film type of thing, where you do have kind of the ability to maybe say something or do something a little more harder edge type of thing, or a web
hmm
series, keeping it as a web series? I mean, obviously it's grown from that.
Yeah. Um, well, so I would say it is like hard edge comedy. Um, but I don't want to like dive too deep into that. Even
Mm.
though like it's in the title, like a hella black Mexican, it's in the title. Um, but because I spent, a lot of time highlighting like this is what we go through, this is what we go through. But I also want to share like this is the culture, this is our culture, this is our so I want to also show like the cool sides about being a hella black Mexican, the food and the dancing and all of that. Um, but I would say I don't want to lean too hard into like the racism,
Mm-hmm.
that goes on. I did want this first series for people to get to know the character, like who she is, so that they could grow some type of empathy towards her and why she makes the decisions she makes and things like that. Kind of like a backstory on who the character
Yeah.
is. Um, but I do love comedy a lot, and I don't know if I want to take it as far as South Park. And see, these are things we have to decide early on because even when we recorded the feature, the voices, we have some like very not appropriate jokes. We had a few comedians come on
Yeah.
and they were just saying stuff. We were dying in the booth, but we're like, wait, we can't use that. Like, can you say that in a TV-14 friendly way? Like,
That's in the DVD
so
version.
yeah. So right now in the editing process, my partner and I are looking at ourselves and we're like, I don't think we should use that. Like, no, that's not okay. Like, so
Well, but see, that's the
it's
beauty, and which is why I tell people, like I said, a web series, it's yours. I mean, now you may get, you know, depending on what you're saying, YouTube may censor you, but you obviously have a lot more
right.
leeway on your own channels, as
Yeah.
opposed to, okay, I know I'm trying to shop this, so I'm gonna have to, acquiesce to what the
Yeah.
studio might want to get behind. So that's what I mean. So that's what I'm wondering, is that your thing of, you know, you want to get it out there, but you want to control your IP and you want it to be true
Mm-hmm.
kind of to your authentic voice? Do you feel like I said, web series on your own channel versus trying to figure out how to make a radio version of it? You know what I mean? A radio cut
Yeah.
version.
I feel like it's possible. I was just watching F is for Family. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Mm.
It's TV 14, but they go hard sometimes. And so I feel like that's kind of a platform. I
Or
think it's on
maybe
Hulu.
a station like Adult Swim, you know, that
Yeah,
has more, like I said, adult style or more adult themed animation or topic animation. Not saying that you're getting deep into
yes.
stuff, but obviously there are things that are being said that you're having to think about. Well, is this gonna fly?
Yeah, like because so for that show, F is for Family, it's TV 14. Like for the people that get it, they'll understand it. There's always like innuendos and things
Yeah.
like that. So I am cool with that. But I don't want it to be too far just because I still want like kids to be able to see it,
Mm.
you know? So that's where the conflict is
Yeah.
because it's like I needed this when I was younger. Yeah, when I'm older, it's great, but it's
Yeah.
like I would have liked this when I was like 10, 12, and I'm
Yeah.
like laughing and like, oh, that's me. So that's where my conflict comes because it's like I want to make these like adult jokes because I know we laugh about it, but it's like, okay, let's like like make it a
Yeah.
little bit TV 14, but it's still there. The joke still
Yeah.
hits.
No, I
Um,
get you totally because, and that's the thing I think about, because I've asked, you know, there are some animators and storytellers that I've had on the show that you can clearly see, you know, their forte is like more children's, like Nickelodeon style animation. That's what they enjoy.
yeah.
That's the lane they enjoy staying in. They may enjoy all kinds of animations, but their storytelling kind of lends more towards that. Me, you know, I like the more extreme adult style, you know, anime, you know, really cerebral type of animations that really get you to thinking or are
Yeah.
deep. But I also love, trust me, I also love, like I said, Warner Brothers slapstick children style animation, Pixar style animation. So developing that story, that's always a final, you know, thing as a, I guess, a writer. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into this. This is the only thing when I got so many different types of
Right.
stories that span, you know, that are just
Yeah.
funny.
And I think that's where the Nacho Average Theo got inspired because Hella Black Mexican, even though it was a little bit over the top, kids were still watching it. But I feel like what we're doing for Nacho Average Theo, it's like they could watch it maybe, like if
Yeah.
your parents are okay with it. But
Well,
yeah, I
I
didn't
think
want to put
YouTube.
myself in that box.
I think
Oh
if you're
yeah.
putting it on YouTube, they're probably going to ask you, "Is this?" Or they're probably going to see this isn't for children. You got to mark it.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we were also in development of doing like a children's book, and um, the woman that was working with us, she's like, we might have to change the title. I think Hella Black Mexicans, like, it's a little much. Like,
I don't see
just
that
think
on the
about it,
children's.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, you're right. Like, okay, we'll figure it
Oh
out. No worries.
man. Yeah, I don't
Um,
see that on the children's aisle.
yeah, so there's a lot to think about, what
Yeah.
route.
Oh man, Mr. DeVille. To your guest, your story reminds me of Miles Morales. His mother is Puerto Rican and his father is that. Yeah, yeah, very
Oh,
inspiring. Yeah, I think that's
yes.
why.
You know what?
I think that's why. Like I said, it's such a, you know, you're really kind of in that kind of flavor of Latino, and I think they did a. I'm not Puerto Rican, but it looks like they did an
Uh-huh.
excellent job of really meshing the
Yes.
cultures in that animation and really getting the feel of what life is like as a black Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I love that they brought that up. That was like when I had seen that, I felt like I felt what other people felt when they saw
Yeah,
my stuff. It was just like, wow, this is incredible. Yeah, I think it's one of my top like movies.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, it
And
really, you
that
know,
reaches different demographics as well, kids
yeah.
as well as adults. It's phenomenal. If I could
Well,
ever jump on something like that, yeah.
like I said, I'm not Puerto Rican and I'm not a New Yorker, but I think, like I said, from what I saw, it looked like it hit. It really hit like a black Puerto Rican because, hey, man, that's what it's like. That's I get the feeling, the graffiti, the struggling,
Yeah.
trying to your mother's talking to you in Spanish and your dad's talking to you in English, and you just yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it as just a
Yeah.
pure Black American. I can feel it, but that's what in great point, Demille, because like I said, that's kind of the feel
Hmm.
that I get, and where I think your animation could really find that kind of space where it really somebody looking at it could really resonate with it. It's like, oh wow,
Yeah.
I get it. That's what I
And
go
also
through.
it's like not because I know I had said like it's already in the title, like what kind of character she is or what the theme is, but not focusing on that. Like that's just a part of her story, just like in Spider-Verse. Like it's more than just being Puerto Rican and
Yeah,
Black.
yeah,
It's just packaged beautifully. So
yeah,
I do want to make stories like that that are really authentic and really raw. It's like that's why we need people like us in the writing room. I'm sure they had what is it? Like cultural. You have to have like a specific
yeah.
person in those
Yeah,
rooms.
I think
But
that's some studios kind of require that or that type of thing. But obviously, like I said, the true test of it is somebody that's actually writing the story that's Black
mhm.
or Asian or Latina that's really got their hands in the story and through other parts of it, whether it be producer, showrunner, voice actor, to
Yeah.
really get to bring that authentic voice to it. I think takes a lot. Do you feel like now is a great time for that we're seeing more diverse characters, or do you feel like it's gonna be those independent creators or small creators creating their own web series, creating their own animations and their own stories, those
Mm.
independent creators that are really going to push the boundaries of the different stories that we're going to and characters that we're going to see?
I I think it's a little bit of both. I think because we didn't feel like we were being seen or heard, like small creators started doing their own animations, their own short films, their own pilots, and people. I think like studios and like influencers and all of that. It's kind of like influencers now could have so much leverage on studios when it comes to content that they're creating on YouTube. It's like, why do I need a studio when I'm already getting half a
Yeah, yeah,
million
yeah,
views, right?
yeah,
So I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely see now a lot more content with people that look like us, and I think it's exciting. I think there's so much more stories to be told, and I mean, endless stories. So I think
yeah,
it's gonna continue for sure. Um, I
yeah.
don't know like what the process is of how they pick and choose it, or how many. I don't
Yeah.
know. Um, but
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
it's a little bit of both. Yeah.
I think it's like I said, I think this time, I don't know, and maybe it's just me, but I think this time is
Hmm.
such a great time for a creator because the playing field is a lot more level now. Like you
Yeah.
said, you don't necessarily have to go to a studio, and that was the kind of the whole theme of what I talk about in the show. You don't necessarily have to go to a studio or get a job in a studio, especially if you're a creative and you got your own ideas. You have all these
Hmm.
channels now to put your idea up there, and if
Yes.
it if it catches fire or catches that lightning in a bottle where it finds its audience, it gives you so much more leverage when you do decide to go
Yeah.
to a studio or they come knocking on your door because they see that you have a
Mhm.
mass following and you built your
Yeah.
own audience. So I think it's such a great time. And like I said, we got software like, Blender, like
Yeah.
Toon Boom, like all these softwares now that are kind of geared for the independent creator, even though there's studios using their studio, standard. It's a lot more
Mhm.
affordable for the independent creator now to get his own idea out there and use his own channels, and have a
Yes.
worldwide audience just like a studio would.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something we went back and forth with a lot, like with deciding to pitch or not pitching and doing it independently. Like my hopes for it would be like, here's this money
Yeah,
and like produce it, right? So that's where I want to get all our people
yeah,
on board. Like, let's create this. Um, but yeah, I think we are in such a great time because I mean, there's so much viral stuff like on TikTok, on YouTube. It's like we don't really, I think we're a huge threat right now to studios because, and especially AI,
yeah.
like with it being able to generate characters and backgrounds and all of that, it's like people, I mean, I think we're just gonna have so much content, so much to consume,
Yeah.
and
And
if
that's a
like
good and a
Netflix
bad
doesn't get
thing.
on board,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's a good and a bad thing because obviously with so much content, you're gonna have just as much bad content as you do good content, people putting out there. But I do want to dive
yeah,
into a little bit, just AI because that is the big thing now and it does kind of give those non-artists or non-creatives kind of a leg into it. I'm wanting to get your thought on AI because obviously there are creators on both sides of the fence don't like it, don't like what
yeah.
it's going to do. Then there's others, that it's a tool. How can I use this tool? Where do you kind of fall when it comes to AI and seeing the impact that it's going to have on the industry?
Um, initially I think I felt really threatened by AI. I felt like it was like cheating. Like,
Hmm.
how can you use AI to help you do anything? Like, it's cheating. Um, and it's funny because I feel like it's such a taboo thing to talk about within the animation world. Because when I went to a summit, I felt like people would bring it up a little bit more, and nobody had brought it up. And I'm just like, I'm not going to ask the question because I feel like we shouldn't talk about this. Um, but it's good to know because for voiceovers, there's so many ways you could mold your voice now where you don't necessarily need to hire people, and that's scary. So um my stance on it, I feel pretty neutral about it. It's helped me when it has come to because first of all, you need to be very business savvy if you're like a creator. You need to know business entertainment, like the whole book, because somebody will try to take advantage of you when it comes to contracts, when it comes to things like that. And so, when it came to producing this feature, um, we didn't know what the heck we're doing. We're just creators, like alone, just creators. So um, we had a few people, like three people or four, that were part of an agency that my friend owns and runs. And so she was like, "Hey, I need a contract for my character, for my talent." And so we were like, "Oh, we didn't know that. Like, obviously, we need contracts." So
Yeah.
that's kind of where it came. Because we're just thinking we just have our creator cap on, we're not even thinking anything legal, none of that. And
Which is a quick
it's
way,
like,
people, to get yourself down the wrong road. So keep that in mind.
yeah. So it's like, it's so important to have that down because then you're going to be doing all of this work for nothing or to get taken advantage of. So, yeah, I remember like we contacted one of our producers that we've worked with before. He sent us a contract like, oh, send this to them. This should be good. And then this woman, she ended up getting like a lawyer, and she was like, "Oh, I don't agree with that contract. Like, we're gonna write a contract and we're gonna send it to you." And so we received this contract, and we're like, we don't know what any of this means, and we don't have money like to pay. We barely have money to like feed these people, like to come record. So what did we do? We copy paste, put it into Chat GPT, and it literally, we were like, can you explain this as if it were like as if you were talking to a 12-year-old? And like beautifully it laid it out, like, this is this term, this is that term. And when I tell you, they were trying to take advantage of like two people with no money. It was crazy. Right away, we just like wrote back. We were like, oh, we don't agree with XYZ terms. um and then their lawyer was like, oh, let's hop on a call. I know that's what it says, but that's not what it means. And it's like, what? Like, that's exactly what it means. So we ended up making our own contract. And we're like, this is a contract. If you guys agree with it, cool. If not, we'll find other talent. Like, it's not that deep. And so they ended up signing the contract that we created, but ChatGPT came in clutch there, because even one of our friends who is business savvy, like, they weren't so sure about specific terms, what it entails. So it came in clutch there. But I would say it has its benefits, for things like that. Questions. I recently downloaded it also for my mom, because she'll have random questions like, how do you blah blah blah. Her Chat GPT is answering her in Spanish, so it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it feels like it could be a huge threat to.
Well, I mean, I think, and I've said this, I don't know how many times, I guess I'll continue to say it. I look at it, it's a tool like any other tool. Like the computer's a tool, like the pencil's a tool. It's a tool like anything else, and you use it and you figure out, how can I use it to aid in what I'm doing, not completely take over. And like I said, I think that's the misnomer, which I would suggest, even if Chat GPT spits you out something, take that to a lawyer, or try and find somebody that's legally can do it, because you can, even Chat GPT, it's fallible, and most people take out verbatim what Chat GPT spits out and just puts it out there, when you should still check. You should still check what Chat GPT puts out, so that you know that it's up and right. So I mean, it's a tool. It'll get you. It's there to get you 80%, 90% of the way of what you're doing.
And the thing is, it's not gonna stop. It's
no,
like,
it's not.
it's
It's a
gonna
genie.
continue.
It's a genie that's not going back in the bottle.
So it's like, it's the same when people were using film versus digital. People who were doing film, they're like, we're not doing digital. So it's like, you either have to incorporate it somehow, or just not.
Yeah, you figure out,
not
how
utilize
can I
it.
aid this? I mean, it was the same with 3D, when we 3D started becoming real big. We exploded. 2D was thinking the same thing. Well, I don't want to do 3D. But then you learn, okay, well, as an animator, how can I incorporate some of this 3D into telling a story? And you got animations like Into the Spider-Verse that melds this 3D and 2D together and creates this amazing piece. Yeah. So that's what I think, and I've said this before, there's always, and it was funny, I kind of said it last week in talking to my guest Douglas. There's always this strange little transition from the old to the new. How do you transition from this old way of the way we did things to this new thing that's coming in? I'm pretty sure they thought the same thing when the automobile came out. We're moving from horse and buggy to this machine that gets us around, or a train that gets her. There's always this strange transition from people moving from this old technology into this new way of doing things. And I think that's just all AI is. It doesn't replace a horse, but it's just a different way of getting around, a faster way of
Yeah,
getting around. So how do I incorporate a car into my life, even if I
I
like riding
agree.
horses, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's what I
even
mean.
like for when it comes also to like the pitching, you can ask ChatGPT like, "Hey, what exactly do I need to walk into,
Yeah, and it gives
a
you a
room?"
starting point. It gives you a great
Yes.
starting point. And I think that's how, as creatives, we should use AI. How does it give me a starting point, ideas? I may not have an idea
Hmm.
for something, but I can sit and throw something into ChatGPT just to see what it spits out to give me ideas, type of thing.
Right.
Um, but moving into, well, and I'm curious, as a editor, how do you think about, AI? Now, like I said, you've got these. I don't think it's quite that great. It's getting better. Generative video.
Hmm.
You know, this
Oh,
this
is there
generative.
generative video already?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
Sora
there
is.
is.
Yeah, Sora is one.
Um,
But some of the other apps now are studying. I think Adobe's supposed to be coming out with a generative AI video app,
yeah.
or video
Oh,
portion.
wow.
So it's starting
You know what
to.
excites me a little bit? For my job, the
Hmm.
tech job, we do use it. We use AI actually. I mean, we use it in Excel. We use it in Premiere as well. We use it for our testimonials that we want them to be, because we have US and we have Latin America, so
Hmm.
we have the audio changed to Spanish. We don't have to. I mean, it's yeah, I think we're utilizing it a lot. Um, it's still faulty here
Yeah.
and there, but
Yeah.
it's
Well.
made my job like at work a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, again, it's a tool, and it's a tool that's been around for ages. I mean, I think generative is kind of exploded, but AI or artificial intelligence has been around in apps and things.
mhm.
A plugin is kind of an AI, or a script is kind of AI, is artificial intelligence that's doing something
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So, as a tool, like I said, it makes a tedious job easier. I would guess most editors would rather use an AI rotoscoping tool to sit and pretty much get them most of the way there than sit and have to rotoscope something out frame by frame. So rather than, that's where
Yes.
AI, like I said, that's where artificial intelligence or an AI tool, it gets you 80% of the way there. It does a lot of the heavy
Yeah.
lifting of a task.
Yeah. And yeah, I think yeah, I agree.
And trust me, I
100%.
would much rather use Adobe Sensei's automatic selection tool than to have to do clipping paths around every little thing. If I could do,
Yeah.
just say, hey, select this subject in this photo, and it do a pretty good job
Hmm.
of it. It's getting better and better.
And especially because now, I mean, it's like we're in a time where you need content like this, and it's like, hey,
Yeah,
we need this done like this. So, yeah, it's like, it's definitely a tool, and it's definitely energy, I mean, time saving.
it's time saving. And now, like I said, I don't think it'll take the place of the human experience. That's where, like I said, I just don't think AI will ever take the place of the human experience. There's a certain, yeah, I could sit in Chat GPT and if I spent the time, maybe come up with a script, help me
Hmm.
write a script. But if I'm not if I don't understand the fundamentals of storytelling,
Storytelling. Yeah, yeah,
understand the fundamentals of cinematography or understand the fundamentals of design, AI is not going to teach me that. It may or may not come close. I think the thing with AI is you got to be good at writing prompts and knowing the prompts
yeah,
that you write in order to get out what you really want from AI.
yeah,
Mm. So,
yeah.
So it's interesting. I think but I do feel like it's an exciting time. What creators will create that leverage AI? You know, I think true creators will figure out different ways of using AI to create their art or whatever it is that they're creating. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a friend in my job who shared with me like their workflow, and it's literally all AI from like creating the characters to getting them rigged to animating them and then to editing it. So they're taking like a writing class right now, and their goal for next year is to create like a whole entire short just like AI.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I'd like to see that process, how it works out.
I mean,
But
I saw one. It was kind of, I mean, obviously it was kind of janky, but it was somebody that did a video. It was all AI.
Mhm.
So it was just video clips of AI. So you could see, like I said, the clipping was not good, so you could tell it was
Yeah.
AI generated. That's what I mean. So I think
Yeah.
there's still this human touch that's got to be
Hmm.
put onto something in order to really just bring it to life. Like I said, I think AI will
Yeah.
get you a good portion of the way there, but you have to put your 10-20% on it to really make it anything that's really good. Like I said, but
Yeah,
it is
there's still
scary.
work to do.
Yeah, but it is scary how good AI is at doing some things, and really spitting out some
Yeah.
stuff. Um, it was funny, and I was gonna use, but my manager was playing around with one of the Adobe's generative or
Bill?
I
Oh.
guess has a new generative AI tool that comes on the software of the new phone. And so he was playing around
Oh,
with pictures,
wow.
and he was using some of our profile pictures, and it was giving him back like illustrations or Pixar style. So it was some of them was
Wow.
mine came out kind of jank. I didn't like any of mine, but some of his looked real like a couple of his and a couple of another lady that's on our team. It gave some really cool kind of graphic images, and
Oh,
styles.
wow.
So it's getting really good. Obviously, it still has issues with hands and fingers,
Oh,
but
yeah, it
you
does.
know, it's getting better. It's just scary how much better it's getting. Now, I think, I'd like to ask you about, I think the legalities of it. I still feel like it's the Wild West as far as just the use of it and the copyrights and the
Mhm.
legalities of scraping people's artworks and styles and learning off of that type of stuff. I still feel like that needs to be
Yeah.
worked out, you know, protecting people's creators' rights and copyrights and stuff. But um, I feel like I said, I'm excited about what's going to come from creators and stuff. What do you feel like as far as the copyrights and rights of creatives as it pertains to AI? How do you feel about that? And especially since you're coming out with your own IP, and
Yeah.
idea.
Um, I have not put much thought into that actually. But yeah, I just realized like obviously when it generates something, it's ripping off from different um of other characters' artwork in a sense. Um,
And just to
but
be clear to everybody, not
uh,
all generative AI is like that. Like I said, some train themselves on their own. Obviously, I think
yeah.
Adobe said that, but who knows what who
I've
knows
used
what a company
programs,
does behind the scenes. But they say they only
yeah.
train their AI on their own Adobe stock images and things like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think because there's some programs where it's like, oh, attach a photo or
yeah,
attach a screenshot of, the style you'd like, and then it
yeah,
mimics
yeah.
that. Which yeah, I actually didn't, I haven't put too much thought in that part of like copyright and I mean, I just feel like I had said before, there's going to be so much content in the future. Maybe a lot of stuff that looks like a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but overall, it's like if you don't have a good story, like I don't think,
Yeah,
you
nothing's
know,
going to work. AI or even real, it's not going to work, you know.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
always comes
So
down to the story of it. Um, I like to ask you, what's been kind of the best piece of advice? I mean, you're going through, you know, a big process now, a big learning process now. What's been kind of the best piece of advice that you've been given that's kind of helped you along the way?
I think it's finding your voice and like standing 10 toes, which I'm still learning. Um, it's it's really easy to have like an identity crisis, or what is it? Like when you feel like you don't belong in that
Imp-
space. I forgot.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, yeah. And I would find myself feeling that way a lot. Like I'd always be like, oh, well, I'm not a real animator. Oh, well, I'm not a real writer. Well, I'm not a real creator. But it's like, why? Why am I not those things? And so I think recently when I started just I guess yeah, I think it's just finding your voice, and it's like closed mouths don't get fed. Like you need to speak up. You know, if you think something's not right, speak up. And growing up, I was just very quiet, about stuff. So
Um,
that's what I'm learning now, and I've made lots of great connections just by like speaking up, going to that network event and
yeah,
talking and getting to know people, and not what you could do for me or what I could do for you, but just like talking and like knowing what I want to do in this world, I think is very helpful. So I would advise people like find your voice. And how do you find your voice? I'm still learning. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of a lot of my life has been like finding who I am
yeah.
and like, yeah.
Well, definitely. And before I go on with that, you know how I bomb on a nugget. Find your voice. That's a great piece of advice. But definitely, like I said, just something so crucial, especially as you move into kind of more getting your thing out there, and really getting into
Mhm.
these more pitching corporate stages. Like I said, you could have easily wound up with a bad deal had you signed that contract that person, you know, just threw
Yeah.
at you. And so being able to say, no, I don't want to, we're not going to do that. We're going to, go with my contract. I'm the one that's hiring you. So you're going to have to figure out, like you
Yeah.
said, do you want this contract or what I'm offering you type of thing. And
Yeah.
knowing, like I said, if I'm not familiar with this, do I know somebody that I can at least ask, hey, how do you're pitching your own idea? What are some of the pitfalls and things that you learned, you know, shopping
Yeah.
your idea around and getting in front of people type of thing? I think is so crucial being around that type of thing. Uh, Mr. Dewan, I know the feeling of imposter syndrome, sometimes questioning if you're truly good enough yet. But a good thing to remember is, like you said, Ehcrama, find your voice and you'll earn from there. Yeah, that's great advice. Like I said,
Yes.
I think you have to, it's easy to fall into, and it's something that you constantly, I think, which is what I'm learning, you're constantly working on or battling that.
Mhm.
Hey, I do deserve to be in this room. I am you are an animator. You created an animation, so you're an animator. You just
Yeah.
you're just putting yourself, not thinking you're an animator because you hadn't got paid like an animator has, but you created an animation. You know
Right.
how to animate. You just need to keep animating and keep telling
Hmm.
stories, and something, an opportunity or whatever will come out of that, if you put the work into it. But It's like,
Yeah.
you don't think you're a professional until you get paid. That's what you don't think you are. It's like, oh, all right. I mean, I'm just doing
Yeah.
this. You think it's a hobby until you get paid for it, but you're still
Yeah.
learning the skill,
Yeah.
you know. And you're much further along than a lot of people that have a story and want to animate. They haven't created anything. They may have a story and they may want to do animation, but they haven't put something together. So, learning to give yourself grace for the things that you do, the wins that you do, and celebrate those as opposed to saying what you're not, type of thing. It's something that I'm working on,
Yes.
you know.
That's it. Yeah, I have this little like vase on my desk that says give yourself grace through the growth because yeah, it's like, hey, you've done a lot of work, you've met a lot of people, people love your work, like why do you have this crazy imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I'm
So
telling you, I feel it too. Even with this show, I'm like, you feel, I feel sometimes just I'm not this show. You feel
that's
imposter, and you
crazy.
don't think
Yeah, I
about
was
it.
like, this is the best podcast I've been on.
But excuse me, you aren't thinking about it when you're in the weeds of doing it, and you're thinking about, well, is anybody watching this or listening to this? And you don't really, at least I don't, until you get that comment from somebody clear across the world that says, wow, I really loved your show. And this is something that I would have loved to have seen when I was a kid, that type of information.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to get the confirmation of, wow, I may not be Joe Rogan or Oprah style show, but I'm producing something that brings value to somebody and gives value to somebody.
Yeah.
So giving yourself grace that,
Yeah.
yeah, I did create something and I am doing something, that I can celebrate and be proud of.
And to add on to that too, I feel like um just being like vulnerable just in writing with myself, like a lot of that has helped. Like I didn't see myself younger, like sharing the stories I share now and like getting such a good reaction from it. And I feel like vulnerability creates some of the best work
Oh
and just
yeah,
being vulnerable with yourself.
yeah.
I'm honest with myself that it's just like, hey girl, you're mid-20s, find your voice. Like you now, So it's like,
I am so with
um,
you because I tell people now, hey, I'm still working to learn about how to make this show the best show. I don't know how to put a show together. I'm like you. I'm not a producer. I never put like I've done it, but like I said, this stuff that I'm doing with the show, podcasting, I'm learning along the way as well as I do it. And I just try and get better, just like everybody else, like
yeah,
you're doing. You're learning it, try the story, and you try and make it get better. And you just appreciate the fact that you're doing something. Like I say, celebrate those wins that you're creating something and doing something,
hmm
even though you may not think that it's anything big. I mean, kind of let go of that. That's what I work at.
yes. Yeah, that's major. I remember my friends would ask me like, "Hey, you were on this panel," and I'd always just be like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Like it was just like whatever." And
Yes,
they're just like, "It's a big deal." So now I'm learning like it is a big deal.
it's a
Like,
big deal. Be
but
proud of it.
yeah.
Mr. Dewan, yep, right. Thanks for your response, Don. Mr. DeMille, great advice and great guest for sure. Appreciate that.
Uh,
I know Ehcrama does as well. And everybody just jumping in. We've been having a fun conversation with my friend Ehcrama here, editor and storyteller and animator, talking about her project, Hella Black Mexican. Hella Black
oh
Mexican.
man.
We were talking earlier about that being a children's book and trying to picture that on a children's book aisle. Hella Black Mexican.
Oh, yeah.
So
We're
where are
working on
you,
it.
you know, right now, like I said, you're not, we're starting to see a few, like I said, diverse characters, stories coming out and things like that. Like I said, Miles Morales, we're starting to see these more richer characters. what are some of the stories that and characters and animations that you've seen lately that have kind of, wow, that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. You know, if it's not the character, maybe the style or just the
Mhm.
way they brought it, type of thing, as a story or animation. What are some of the ones that you've seen lately that have really kind of stuck out to you?
Um, I recently saw Primos. I think it's a Disney
Yeah,
animation.
yeah.
Um, and I think that stood out to me, like the characters and how colorful, not
Hmm.
literally, but like how colorful the world was with these characters. Um, that's one that stood out to me. And then there's other stuff that stand out to me, but not because it's like great, but because I'm like, wait, I could do that. Like I could do that. So there's like a few stuff that's just got added to Hulu.
Mm.
Very simple animation,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
but the stories are good. And
yeah,
so I'm not sure what it's called, but
yeah.
I'm
No,
not
I
great with the names, but
no,
yeah.
I agree. And that's where, and that's I think the beauty of it, because that's why I say I love, the real like anime artistic style, but obviously at the core of it is the story. So I've seen
Hmm.
really simple animations, and there's one on it's a really good one on Netflix, and it's
Hmm.
just pencil drawing animation, really
Mm.
simple, but the
Oh,
story it's
yeah.
called um, "If I Didn't Tell You I Love You Today." It's about a girl that goes to school
Yeah.
and she's involved in a school shooting. If I don't make it back, I love you. That's the kind of title of it. But it's a really good animation because, like I said, it tells the story of a mother and a father, and their daughter is killed in a school shooting, type of thing. So,
Mm.
and it's a very simple like I said, 2D style animation, and that's why I said it's really the power of the story that really, it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter whether it's a Disney or a Pixar style or whether it's a simple 2D style. It's the story behind it
Hmm.
that really makes it good. I tell you another one you
Yeah.
should check out. It's on YouTube. Um, I Thought of You. It's a really, really beautiful animation done by. He's a former Disney animator, and it's done. It's a two people dancing. It's just a line drawing of two dancers to a song.
Oh,
It's
wow,
beautifully
that's
done.
beautiful.
Yeah, and there's a behind the scenes making of it you should check out too. He talks about all the
Yeah.
drawings and everything, but it's just beautiful. So that's what I mean.
Oh, it's
It doesn't
incredible.
take a Pixar style thing to tell a beautiful story, you know.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because we've actually considered like, okay, should we see what 3D looks like in Hella Black Mexican, that world? But I also just feel like that's not what it is. Like, just
Yeah.
imagine South Park 3D would look really not great. Or I
Yeah,
don't know,
you
it
have
would
to
look
figure
really
out what
interesting.
style fits your kind of, like I said, I don't think again,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think South Park would would come across the same as a 3D, which is why
Right.
I wasn't particularly keen on when they did like a 3D of Peanuts, a 3D movie of Peanuts.
Oh,
It
yeah.
that when they did, I liked it stylistically, but there's just some things that are just better left in their original form, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Yes.
They just don't translate over. Like I cringed. I was talking about this with a guest because I just saw the post. Um, they're doing a live action version of The Incredibles. So
Oh.
I was like, really? Because if it's anything like the live action version of Lion King, oh man, this is not gonna do.
Oh my
It's not
gosh.
gonna do too good.
Yeah.
So there's just some things like you should just leave it in the form that it is. Now I will say
Because it
this,
works.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it works. Now they obviously just I don't know. I guess some people like the live action version of the Lion King. I just cringed when I looked at the. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, when you see you just can't top the 2D. You're just not going to be able to beat that. So I don't know why you would try to do that. Myself, I'm obviously making money, trying to get some money again. But
Right.
I think you should have just. I think Disney should have just left it like it was. It's a 2D, and there's
Yeah,
just some
that's
things
like
that are classic.
animation. That's why I love animation because some things look so much better animated. Like you could convey a lot of like emotion. You could see sadness. You could see happiness. Like in live action, you can't unless like a character is like smiling. It's like, oh, she's happy, but it's like you
Looks
could
weird.
feel that world and see that world, right, in animation, which is why I love it a lot. But yeah,
um,
when you use Lion King live action, it's like, what am I watching? Like,
it's just
I don't feel it. Like, yeah.
like I said. I guess it resonated with some people. It just, you know,
Uh,
to me, it just didn't look right. Yeah. Now I will say this: the characters or the actors that they did get, or that I did see that they were playing, the characters in their credibles. I thought, the actor that they got to play, that they're getting to play Bob Parr. Okay, that's pretty good. It looks
yeah.
like him. Now, in the actress that they got to play, that they're getting to play Helen Parr, I was like, okay. When I saw her, I was like, okay, she might could pull this off. Obviously, it's going to depend on the script. It's got to be a good
Right.
script and story, otherwise it's going to flop. But I thought Kevin James as Bob Parr, okay, I could see that. And then I thought Scarlett Johansson, when I saw her, I was like, okay, I can see her as Helen Parr. Now
Yeah.
they got what you call him slated to play Frozone, Jamie Foxx, and I was like, okay, I don't see
Oh my
Jamie.
God.
I was like, okay. Now I don't know. I've never heard of the actors and actress they got to play the kids. I've never seen them before, so they might be new actresses or
Mm,
unknowns. I've never seen them, but who they got or who they picked to play Bob Parr and Helen Parr, I thought, okay, they look pretty close to, they could pull it off if it's a good story. Who they got to
yeah.
play Edna Mode, I don't know. I've never seen her before either. That didn't look like it was a good fit either. But the only
And
two ones
oh,
that the only two ones that I felt like they were really kind of spot on were Helen and Bob Parr. So I don't know. But again, it's gonna come down to the story, because even if it's not a good story, I don't care who they put into it. It's not gonna work.
yeah.
But my thing is, really, Disney, do you really need to make a live action version of that? That's my thing. It's like,
Yeah,
really?
I
I
think
don't
it's like
know.
a lot of that can go to new stories to be told. Why are we recycling? And the thing is, like, it works and it's great, and keep it at that. Like, it's
Like I said,
interesting.
that's why I feel like and that's why I like this time now that we live in, because it levels this playing field of, hey, I got a different story that I want to tell. And I know Disney's not going to put it out, or Pixar's not going to put it out. Let me put it out on my own channel, or let me just see how far I can take it. Now, again, you have to be that type of creator that is self-motivated and self-disciplined to take your own IP and make it big, and put the work
Yeah.
behind it. Obviously, there's a lot of work you have to put behind it to really get it good, get it big. Now, like I said, you could go the route. I don't know if you all thought about the route that I know my friend Don Dixon, who was on here, he's a motion designer, animator. And he wrote a couple of children's books that he sent to me, really
Mm.
great. And one of them, he just made a short, animated short, and it's on the film circuit now, winning some awards and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Darwin the Dreamer. Darwin the Dreamer. Great. And hold
Alright.
on. Let me jump over here. Let me throw your solo scene on.
Darwin the Dreamer.
Sorry, people. Uh, I should have had this. I should have had this together, but I didn't know we were going to go into this here. That's the beauty of live. You never know what you're going to talk about. But this, he wrote. He wrote this. It's funny too. It's like a limericcal style book, but it's Darwin the Dreamer. He just finished doing his animated short on this, and like I said, it's in the film circuit. Right now he's entering it in film festivals. Was that something that you thought about as well? Maybe just doing, like I said, doing a shorter version and trying to go the film festival route and get traction that way.
Yeah, so the animatic we're creating, I think it's going to be around 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
which we would possibly do the film festival. I'm coming. I would do the film festival route with the 5 minute animatic, and from there, we're also gonna chop that one for the pitch deck. So we're not doing like double
Yeah,
work and just
yeah.
two birds with one stone. But yeah, I mean, I've been looking at the pros and cons. It's just like the time consuming part because I would love to do the festival route to get like more people's eyes on it for um, people to see it. And I
Yeah.
think also having those numbers and
And
stats
leverage,
of
yeah.
like,
I think
yeah, will be
awards gives
leverage.
you leverage when you do go in there. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that you should think about connecting with Don. He's in the Facebook group. You should, get into it and just ask him questions about it. Because, like I
Yes.
said, he's in that stage right now where and he's getting a lot of traction and a lot of awards, from some of these festivals and
Wow.
stuff.
Oh,
So
that's exciting.
I know but it's a hefty process. That's what I mean. You have to be a disciplined enough person to do it and put it together. I know
Yes.
Rule Smith. He's a film director. He was on. They just what's his film? Oh man, Rule, I know you're gonna kill me because I can't remember. But it's a sci-fi film that they did a little short on. That's in the film festival circuit that he's shopping around for, to get it fleshed out even more. That's what I was saying we were talking about before. A lot of creators, they'll they want to get something bigger, a bigger, flesh out their fuller story, but they know that's going to take them forever and a lot of budget. So they'll just create a 2, 3, short that they can put on the
Yeah.
film circuit route and gain traction so that when, hey, like I said, they do go in and start to really type of pitch it, it's got this backing behind it, and
Yeah.
following behind it. So it's just a different route. Like I said, um,
It's definitely, yeah, we've considered that a lot. Our only thing right now is like time. Can we get it in time for these festivals?
well, yeah, that's the thing. You're gonna have to, depending on what festival and what time of the year. Obviously, you'll hit different festivals, so you'll have to plan out like what festivals you want
Yeah.
to hit, and then get something together for them. But like I said, I think it's the route that most people go if they don't go like their own self Kickstarter, and even those Kickstarters, they're only trying to get enough to make a short that they can take the pitch out for a longer form,
Yeah.
you know.
Very
So
true.
definitely, like I said, you should reach out to Mio. I think Marvel did a good job blending 2D and 3D and what else. Yeah, what if? I've never seen it. Yeah, I haven't
Oh, me
watched it all the way
neither.
through. I've only seen like little clips of it. What if? But yeah, that's what I mean when you get this interesting blend of technology and this old
Yeah.
way of doing things. It sparks this idea of how can I use this in what I'm doing. And a great example I like to use is Unreal. Unreal is a game engine,
Mm.
but when directors and filmmakers started getting a hold of it, and seeing that, hey, I can create a virtual environment that my actors can act in. It took this
Yeah.
tool that was originally a game engine and brought it into this new space. So that's what I mean when technology gets in the hands of creatives that are using it for a different way that even the inventor thought of using it. It sparks this new
Yeah.
thing that comes out of it that just is exciting to see. And that's why I said I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what creators will create with AI, in the hands of a true creative, in the hands of a true
Hmm.
creative, a game engine, a filmmaker, a game engine turned into something that now every filmmaker that's doing something, creating these worlds is using because they can see real
Yeah.
time. So that's what I mean. Technology sparks innovation and technology pushes art where art pushes technology. It's this dual thing that they
Mm.
push each other, and creatives come up with these wild ways of doing things and new ways of doing things that you'd never seen before.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it looks really great. The what if? I heard they did
Yeah.
that on Spider-Verse too, right? It was like 3D with 2D filters or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
And like I said, it was just a new way of doing. They had to sit there and create of a new. And there's an interview with the directors. I've been trying to get uh, Kemp. Kemp Powers is one of the directors. He's the black director. He's one of the directors of Spider Verse. I'm trying to get him on, but they talk about this. They had to obviously sit and think of new ways of doing this thing that they wanted to create. Like I said, I love the halftone. They still kept it like a comic
Mm.
book where they had this halftone style,
Yeah.
3D. Yeah, it's just like I said. Just I would have loved to have been on that project and just learned how they thought their way through creating this thing that just looks amazing. You know, Mr.
Oh yeah.
Dewan. They should have. I don't know if Sam. I don't know if Samuel Jackson would have made a better Frozone. I mean, obviously he did the voice of the first one in the series, but I don't know if he would have been a good live action Frozone. I'm trying to think who would have been a good. Maybe. I mean, Samuel. Yeah, he might have been pretty good. I mean, Samuel is kind of funny in his own. Yeah, he does comedy well. Um,
Yeah, that would have
yeah,
been
he does comedy
interesting to
well. It
see.
would have been interesting with Sam. I think much better than obviously. I think way better than Jamie Foxx. But no knock on Jamie, but I just don't think Jamie is the right person for Frozone. Um, but like I said, I feel like that's why I said I love this time as a creator because, like I said, we have these places and channels and things to do. And do you feel like because of the time the industry's in, that more creators are kind of thinking along the lines of owning their own IP and kind of going their own route. I mean, now it's harder to get into jobs. Everybody's
Mhm.
struggling. There's a lot of creators that are struggling to get into jobs. The market is so much more saturated now. Um,
Yeah.
Companies are laying off. Do you think creators
Oh
now are
yes.
starting to think, hey, how can I monetize myself, my skills and my talents and earn money,
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I see it a lot like on TikTok, people are just going up making these 7-second videos and they're making a living off of just making like 4 videos a day. Um, yeah, it's like my rent money in one day and it is shocking. Um, but it's just consistency. And I
Yeah,
think that's what a lot of them have that are monetized. It's like they're very consistent and yeah, it's like you can't lose that way. And yeah, I would say the independent route is better. Yeah, because you own all your stuff, you're monetized, and nobody's gonna tell you how to do something. You don't lose creative control. You have leverage. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think we're starting to see that a lot. And I mean, that's kind of the way I started too. I mean, I'm still very independent.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
but
that's the
yeah,
way it's going. Obviously, though, you have to be a self-motivated individual, and not everybody.
yes.
Obviously, not everybody is that way. A lot of people, they just want a 9 to 5. They don't want to have to worry about, I may create some stuff on my, just little piddly stuff, and I'm not trying to build an empire, a little mini empire or anything like that. I just want to get my check, get my benefits, come home, maybe create some stuff on the side, but I got a full-time gig. A lot of people,
Yeah.
they're they're like that, and that's fine.
Sometimes I wish I was like that, but I can't help it. I'm like, I need to do. But I wish I was okay with it. My friends, two of them work in the tech company that I work for,
Mm-hmm.
and they just love going to the office,
Yeah,
sitting on the
yeah,
computer, going home.
yeah,
And I'm like, wow, I want that. But no, like my brain's just like, do this, which is beautiful too.
yeah.
So,
No, that's a great thing. But you also have to realize too, if you're working for somebody or you're working at a job, you're capped. There's only so high you can go. There's only so much you're going to be able to make. But if
yes.
you're working for yourself or if you're creating your own thing, you're not limited. You have to put in the work, but you're not limited by what you can make and what you can earn or what you can do or where you can go. That's all on
Yeah.
you, but you got to put the work behind it, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Mr. DeMille, Kemp Powers did a great job with influencing the look of soul. Yeah, so from an African American perspective, wasn't what there is a
Oh.
good documentary on his what is it? I need to get that on his contribution that is worth watching. Definitely. Soul wasn't my favorite Pixar movie though. I liked it, uh, but I thought he did, like you said, he did a great job, and obviously you know, they needed him on the film, for sure. They needed him directing the film for sure to give it its flavor. But that's why I feel like, you know, I'm encouraged now because again, it's really hard to get into a studio and pitch your own idea and 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 have it stay the way you want. Obviously, they're gonna homogenize it enough to where they feel like it's got mass appeal. You know.
Yeah, I think
Um,
also early on when we had first dropped our trailer, not our trailer, but it was that first music video song where
mhm.
she's like, "Yeah, I'm black." When we first dropped that, we had like this company reach out, wanting us to sign like a pitch deal with them so that they could shop it around. And so we took like the first few meetings, and then we realized like, oh, you know what? We're gonna take the independent route, at least for now, because when we got like the contract back, we were basically kicked off of
Oh
anything.
yeah, any production or
And yeah, it was just like you'll get producer credits,
yeah,
but
credits. Yeah,
no showrunner, no creator.
yeah,
Um, like also, we're changing like the character, and also that's not gonna happen. So it was kind of just like, no, you know what, we're good.
yeah.
We'll stick this out independently for a while, and I'm glad we did because yeah, at that point, I mean, we would have just sold it over,
Yeah.
and
And that's what I guess you have
yeah.
to decide as far as something that you create. Am I going to want to
Hmm.
keep this or am I going to want to shop this? Because if I shop it, then I'm giving up, like I said, the character, and whoever buys it is going to be able to do whatever it is they want to do for it. I think it
Yeah.
was who uh, Kevin Graveau. I think that's basically why he said he started his own comics company, Darkstorm, to kind of create and hold
Mm,
his own IP characters. You know that he
yeah.
can control. Now he can write out. He can make, which he does. He writes for other
Hmm.
comics and things like that. But the things that he wants to hold on to, and the characters that he wants to hold on to, he puts them under his comic book company and keeps the IP for it. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. if you're creating stuff, you're gonna have to decide, okay, do I want to, like I said, keep this my own IP, or do I want to shop it around? And like I said, you just run the risk of them. They're gonna X you out. Like I said, they're gonna keep the majority of the slice of the pie. You're gonna get your slice,
Yeah.
and you need to go on, be happy with the slice that you get. You may get like I said, a producer credit or this and that, but you don't have a say in merchandising and in the way the character goes or any of that stuff, unless you have a lawyer or somebody that's representing you that's savvy enough to stand on that. Hey, we're not going. We want to keep. All we want to work out with you is a distribution deal. I think that was
Yeah.
the initial thing when Pixar went to Disney. That was their initial thing. Disney wanted the rights to all the Pixar stuff, and Pixar was like, no, we're 50-50. All we want you partner with, before they got bought by Disney, all we're working with you is you're distributing our movie. You don't own the characters or anything like that. We're 50-50 with you. We're just getting into this deal as a distribution deal type of thing. And of course,
Yeah.
when they got bought by Disney, Disney owns the rights to all the characters now. So they can do whatever they want with the characters type of thing. So that's what I mean. You give up certain amounts if you're going to sell your IP. So you have to figure out, do I love this character enough to keep it?
Yeah, I think that's why I also got that inspiration from creating this whole other character that didn't exist in that world. Because if it comes to giving up rights for that or compromising rights for like a natural average Theo season,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that. I think like the Hella Black Mexican, I'd just hold on to that one, even though that one's kind of part of the world. Um,
And
but
that may be something that, like I said, that when you sit and sell this, they say, hey, okay, then we own this, but you can't say this person character in your. So that's what I mean. If they're
right,
connected in some
yeah,
kind of way, that's another thing you're going to have to work out, type of thing.
yeah.
Very interesting. Uh, let's see. Yeah, they turned Jamie Foxx's character into a cat for the second part. Cat. Jamie Foxx's cat. For shaking my head, a
Into
better
a cat.
idea. Or are you talking about? Yeah, Soul. Yeah, he did voice the character for Soul. I forgot. Yeah, that was it a cat or whether it was a blue? That little blue thingy. Yeah, yeah, that little blue alien thingy is what they turned him into. It was
Yeah.
like okay, but it was well done. I liked it. I like Soul, but that was the one thing I was like, did you really have to turn? I mean, I don't know. I think you could have been better. But like I said, say all of that to say, yeah, I think it's great, coming up with your own ideas and shopping your own ideas. But again, like I said, when you're getting into the world of negotiating and pitching and stuff like that, you better be on your toes because, like I said, they may take you through the rake you through the coals,
Yeah.
trying to get, especially if they feel like it's a money maker, if they really see, okay, we can make some money off
Yeah.
of this type of thing, you know. Not to say every company is like that, I'm not labeling every company, but it's best to protect your rights. That you learn that you
Yes.
you better have some protection and some representation, especially if you're not savvy in it yourself. So that would
Yeah.
be my advice. Man, oh man, again, we've been having let me worry about things here. We've been having to make we're going on 2 hours here. Holy moly. I'm telling you, these episodes go by
Oh,
so quick. As we start to kind of, like I said, we've had a great conversation. I'm definitely looking forward to having you back on, especially when you get done with the short or the film, bringing you back on and sharing it. But as we close out, like I said, this episode, kind of what is your hopes for the future as far as the industry? Are you kind of thinking about or hoping for that the industry, kind of goes toward? What's your kind of hope for the industry moving forward?
Um, I think it would be nice for just because, like I mentioned before, how influencers are coming up and using their following and their likeness as leverage. It'd be cool to start to see, like, I don't know, the industry working with independent people. But I mean, I don't know. And it's hard for me to say also because I'm not so involved in the industry. I just know it's like tough to break in, but then it's
Yeah.
like, do you want to even break in? So um, I'd just like to see more of like a collaborative space
Uh,
because but I don't know if that would happen.
uh,
I don't know if that's like wishful thinking, but I just think it's gonna come to that point because a lot of people are just gonna have way more views, way more leverage when it comes to, the just like the industry in general. A lot of actors who aren't real actors, I mean, a lot of influencers are taking places of real actors
no,
in
I get you.
movies
I get what you're
just because
saying.
of their,
They've influence.
following or
Yeah.
their influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting, because with that, I don't always 100% agree because it's like people who have act since they were such a young age are being overlooked because they don't have a certain amount of following, but they're phenomenal actors. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's just gonna look very convoluted and a lot
Yeah.
of,
It's interesting. Like I said, I
I mean,
think,
yeah.
I mean, you have to, I guess, decide, do I want to play in that world or not, as far as Hollywood and the
Mhm.
whole Hollywood machine. And I think every
Yeah.
actor ponders that at some point. Man, you know,
Hmm.
we see actors now getting out of acting because they're just tired of the game or tired of the cycle or tired of the
Yeah.
club or tired of just, the whole fakeness of it. So I think you have
Yeah.
to
I
decide, well, do I want to go into that world, play that game, knowing that that's the game that I got to play if I want to, be an actress or get my film out there, be a director or this, or again, I I do have the ability to go the independent route. It's a lot more work on my side,
hmm
but I have the creative freedom and the creative control that I want. So,
Yeah.
it's that funny thing of, well, I, I need a job, I need to do this to pay the bills, but there's this other creative side, or I can get in, but there's all this mess that I got to deal with. All these people that I don't really like being around that they're trying to change this or trying to tell me to do that type of thing.
Yeah.
I can deal. Do I want to deal with that, or do I want to try and make my own thing happen? Type of thing. So it's that
Mhm.
balance of, you have to figure out and decide which is best or which is the route that you want to go. But just knowing that if I go my own route, I got to put the work in, and I got to put a lot of work in.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. Because I mean, yeah, you have to hold yourself accountable. You're not reporting to anybody. You're your own boss, your own story writer. So it's like, yeah, you gotta be
So
consistent.
once you get this last final question, once you get Hella Black Mexican out, or Nacho, what's it, Nacho Tia,
Not your average Theo.
Nacho Address Tio. Once you get that out, what are you hoping that people take away from when they watch it? What's the thing that you're hoping that's what I want to get across when people see this?
Um, I'd love for people to watch it and see that family isn't perfect. Family comes and looks many different ways, and um, I think a lot of the stuff I like to think be like the base of my stuff is about love
Mm-hmm.
and like loving each other, loving one another. And so this is like the the
Yeah,
cover.
yeah. You see the
Um,
cover behind her.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like family and love, and family doesn't always look like what it does, but it's important to like have that genuine love. And then family sometimes isn't exactly blood relative, but um, yeah, it's just like just creating that family and finding love
Okay.
for
With that,
yourself, for others. Yeah.
awesome. With that being said, I think we're a good note to end this on for sure. Tom, I can't thank you enough for coming by. One, I can't thank you enough for being a part of the Color of Motion family. You know, when I first connected, that was the
Yes.
main thing. You're a part of the family. Thank you for coming by and really, sharing with us and really giving value to the viewers and everything. And can't wait, like I said, to have you back on once the film is done to really share it with you. If you
Yeah.
could hang out in the green room for just a second while I close out the show, I'd appreciate it. Uh, but again, everybody, excuse me, everybody, please help me thank again my dear, very special guest and friend, Miss Ehcrama Marche, for coming on. Hang out for just a second, Ehcrama, while I close out the show.
Yes.
Oh man, everybody, I love doing these shows and episodes for sure, and this was a great one. Like I said, crowd was great, and Hella Black Mexican looks funny as hell. So you can't beat that. I can't wait to see it come out for sure. I can't thank you enough, the viewers, for joining me and giving me, as I always say, a little bit of your time on this Saturday afternoon. I thank you for that. Again, do not forget to set your clocks back an hour tomorrow because we fall back. So thank you for joining me this weekend. It was a great episode, and next week is going to be no exception for sure. Super looking forward to it. Miss Jemima Atim, 3D animator from Africa, the motherland. So looking forward to having her back on, or having her on, and sharing her journey as well. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Wow. Like I said, this has been a big one and a good one, and I can't thank you enough for joining me as well. With that, you have a great rest of the week, and you have an even better week, and I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.